Don't take candy from strangers. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Look both ways before you cross the street. Long before you ever thought about retirement, your mom was teaching you important lessons that you can apply to your financial decisions today. We're going to talk about 7 of those lessons and the actions you can take to retire on your best path.
It's easy to get lost on the way to retirement. Things like taxes, improper planning, and excessive market risk can all lead you astray from your goal of a successful and happy retirement. That's where Liz Whittaberry comes in. She's a holistic financial advisor and the founder of Best Path Advisors, and she can help guide you to a better financial path. This is Retire on Your Best Path with Liz Whittaberry.
Welcome in once again to another edition of Retire on Your Best Path. Thank you for tuning into the podcast with Liz Whittaberry and myself, Mark Kelly. I'm back in the saddle with Liz this week to talk about mom. And, in honor of our Mothers and Mother's Day, Liz, we're taping this the day after Mother's Day, so we'll drop this here in a couple of days. So it was a good time to reflect back on some lessons from mom, and had my mom over at the house yesterday, and she's 85 years old, and she was still trying to hit me with some different lessons because I had recently been injured, and she's trying to give me all this motherly advice, and I'm like, Mom, I'm 55 years old, I got it. But it never ends for you guys, does it?
It does not. Moms always want the best for their kids.
Yeah,
and as a mom, I know that. I didn't necessarily understand that as a kid.
I don't think any of us do, yeah.
Right. All of the little things that she said or did, and you're like, oh, Mom, and I don't really see the relevance of that. And then later, looking back, you really can see how it applies to so much of life. And so, like we were just talking about, this is a fun conversation to have because moms are fun and funny sometimes, and yet it really, really can apply to what we do and how we do it.
Very true. And there's a lot of universal mom-isms that all moms and dads probably, hit us with, right? So, but we'll talk about these in honor of mom. So let's get started. You kind of kicked off the tease there at the beginning of the show with the don't take candy from strangers. That's probably lesson 1. If you will, right? And, all moms have said that. And so really, financially speaking, right, that free stuff, right, we get a little skeptical.
Yes. Right. Absolutely. And, when I was growing up, my mom said this a lot. We rarely went out for Halloween trick-or-treating, but when we did, we could only go to people's houses that we knew.
Oh, okay.
Because she had heard all of the bad stories about people putting tampering with candy.
Yeah.
And back in the 70s and 80s, that was more of a thing, maybe. People were scared about that. So she told us all the time, don't take candy from strangers. But like you say, it applies in the financial world because there's so many free offers. And you can have a free lunch, a free report, a free assessment. I got an email just yesterday offering me free money. Supposedly
wow.
this person on the other end is giving away $4,800,000 to some lucky individuals. Now, we all know that's a scam.
Right, yeah.
Or hopefully we know that's a scam. I mean, they're still sending those emails, so it's still working.
Well,
somewhere.
It's funny you say that, right? Because anytime that stuff's happened, come out to the free event, the free seminar, the free whatever. And look, not to say that people doing, advisors doing free seminars is bad. It's not. They can be very useful and educational. But just don't forget, at the end, you're the product.
Right.
If they're like, we're not selling anything, we're not trying to convert you, that's fine. But just kind of keep in mind, if they don't have a product, it's because you're the product. They're trying to get you interested in what they're doing. And again, it may not be a bad thing, but just be aware of it, right?
Right. So you need to know, what do they get? That's exactly the question that you should be asking yourself. And what might it be costing them? Because the more it's costing them, then the more there's going to be pressure on doing something in return, like a steak dinner versus a free webinar. There's quite a big difference in cost between those two.
True. Very true, right? So kind of that don't take candies from strangers lesson from mom. Just be skeptical of those different kind of financial offers, or take my course and you'll learn how to be a millionaire, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
All right, lesson 2. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, said mom. Kind of similar to what we were just talking about. Maybe even the take my course kind of thing, or the $4 million giveaway like you were just talking about.
Right, right. Yeah. So we've got to recognize all of those scams that could be too good to be true. And I've heard a number of stories recently where people put all of their retirement money into some kind of investment that was promising 20% guaranteed or 25% guaranteed,
Oh, wow.
some ridiculous amount of guaranteed return. And of course, that's not real. And the people have lost their money.
Mm-hmm.
Wall Street Journal has reported on some of this. Jason Zweig is one of the people who writes articles, and he's done some research on some of this. But you've got to be very careful about anything that is promising very, very high returns or quick payoffs, because a lot of times it is a scam in disguise.
Yeah, I mean, I think what is it? It's some crazy numbers, like how many seniors are targeted with scams, right?
Yeah.
It's like 3 billion a year or something like that. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very, very large numbers. So whenever you see something, the takeaway that you should have is ask yourself, are they promising high return with no risk?
Mm-hmm.
Is there some urgency to act?
Right.
And are they telling you not to talk about this, that it's you don't want to let other people know, it's you're an elite group, you can't tell other people about it?
Yeah.
Any
Yeah,
of
that's a flag.
those?
That's a flag.
Yeah.
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 Oh man, that's
Just
yeah.
back off.
Exactly. If you hear that, man, you got to run the other way, right?
Yeah.
The urgency thing. My dad, I grew up. I know we're talking about moms, but Dad always told me growing up, if it's a good deal today, son, it'll be a good deal next week. Sit on it and think about it, right?
Exactly. That's good advice.
So I
Very
was
good
like,
advice.
okay, all right. So if
Yeah.
it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. It was funny because in the notes here, you kind of had the the fall off the turnip truck yesterday statement. That, the hilarious part is my parents grew up in the South on farming. They were children of farmers, and my mom actually did fall off a turnip truck. So she likes to.
Oh my goodness.
She actually she likes to throw that one around because she's like, I did fall off the truck.
Yeah, but it wasn't yesterday.
But it wasn't yesterday, right? It was like a long time ago. She was like, I was like 4 years old. All right, lesson number 3. Look both ways, Liz, before you cross the street.
Yeah, absolutely. And my mom always said, look left, look right, look left again.
Okay.
And that is really very good advice. A couple of things that come to mind about that. I did have a cousin when I was very young. I was maybe 6th grade or so, and he was kind of close to my age. He got hit by a car on his way to school.
Oh, no.
Walking to school. And so that really drove that home to me, how important it was to take that advice.
Yeah.
But there have been so many things that I've been at say, a stop light or a stop sign, actually, a stop sign. I've looked left, nothing's coming. I've looked right, nothing's coming. Looked left. Oh my goodness, there is something coming, and it's amazing how that can happen.
And so many people run red lights anymore. It seems like my brother and I, in different occasions, almost got hit recently. Somebody just plowed right through a red light, right? So gotta be careful.
And you do have to be careful. And in financial decisions, you also want to be careful because some things are irreversible decisions. Like you make them and it's a permanent decision.
Yeah.
And so you want to just take the time to do the research, think it through, take that pause that you just talked about. If it's a good decision today, it's going to be a good decision next week. Take that pause to think about what is the decision you're making. How's it going to impact you? How's it going to impact your spouse? How's it going to impact your family?
And a lot of times they do have timelines on them, Liz. Like Social Security, I think, is one most people think of. And maybe they don't realize that it does have that. Yes, there's technically a 1-year caveat, that initial mulligan if you turn it on too soon. But there's some hoops you got to jump through. So make sure you get that one right. But most people are thinking, hey, let me just turn it on ASAP, right?
Right. Social Security definitely is one because you have limited ability to make changes. But electing your pension, which one do you take? Which option do you take? And you're wanting to think about maximizing income now, but what if something happens where your spouse needs that survivor benefit? So you've got to weigh those. Taking company stock. I've seen people that have not understood that they could use net unrealized appreciation, and so they've created a whole lot more income tax for themselves than they would have if they had approached it a little bit differently.
Oh, great point. Yeah.
Yeah. Or selling real estate at the same time that they're getting their deferred comp payout, as opposed to maybe structuring those things in different years, selling something else that has big capital gains, or making Roth conversions at the same time that other things are happening. And with some planning, you can structure some of those income taxes, the impact so that they're lower, so that you keep more, so that you then obviously have a better retirement. So, again, before you make any irreversible decision, you want to talk to a fiduciary advisor, get some projections, look at some pros and cons, sleep on it, and then make a decision.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, the takeaway definitely is double check some of those things before you move them in, because a lot of times, you can't make those changes. So, and if you can, there usually is some pretty crazy hoops to jump through, especially with the Social Security thing. So, want to make sure you get it right the first time. So, all right, that's lesson number 3. Lesson number 4, Liz. I don't know if I guess maybe this is a momism, but it probably came from grandma. I felt like my grandma was the one always saying this, but either way, they get passed down, right? Don't put all those eggs in one basket. We've all heard that like 8 billion times.
Yeah. And I actually grew up with chickens, and
there
we
you go.
gathered eggs. Yeah. So I am very familiar with the eggs in the basket.
And if you tripped and fell, you broke them all, right?
Oh my gosh, that was not a happy day. But also, if I put too many in the basket, they would be more easy to break. Mm-hmm. So you wanted to, really get them in there where they weren't going to break, and you could get them back in the house, and mom and everybody else was happy.
Right. Okay.
But financially, when we're thinking about don't put all of our eggs in one basket, we want to think about diversification and how are we diversified. And this can be a real blind spot to people because, maybe they're working for a company and they have a lot of company stock. It's in an ESOP. It's in their 401k. And they're very comfortable with the company. They believe in the company's future, but it's become 20, 25% of their total net worth. Well, that's a lot to have tied up in one asset. I've also seen people have an oversized position in something that's not very liquid, and maybe that liquidity wasn't really needed when they were working, but as they're moving into retirement, they need more liquidity. And an example that comes to mind is some people that have a lot in illiquid real estate investment trusts. At the time that they invested in that, real estate was very hot. They were expecting to make a whole bunch of money on that.
Yeah.
They were working. They had good income. Well, now they're retired. Real estate is not so hot, and it's not as easy to get the money out of some of these things. And so it can create some issues. And so the key is make sure you don't have too much in one category.
Asset class, yeah. Mm-hmm.
One asset class. And another one is where people have just moved to cash, and just stayed in cash, or other people that are all in stocks because they're really aggressive, and yet now they're moving into retirement. And
it's tough, Liz. That's where people get. Like sometimes they feel like I got two choices, right? Especially when they're not working with a professional and someone like yourself who really is well versed in all these different things. They think, I know so many people who feel like they have two options in the world. It's cash or the market. That's it. That's the only two things they think they have available to them,
Right.
And they get too weighted in either one.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, it can be a real blind spot to people because it's what they've had and it has done okay, or they felt like it's done well.
Yeah. Especially with the market screaming along right now, right? So.
Yeah. And they're not seeing that their situation is changing. Like they're not stepping back and looking at it from a different frame. I'm now retired. I'm now drawing money. I'm getting ready to retire. So it's a different time frame and a time to really think about that. So
that's a good point.
I would say if you're listening to this and you have anything that's worth more than 10 or 15% of your net worth, you want to really do a good audit on that and say, is this where I should have that much of my net worth? What would happen?
Yeah, I mean, you could
to my retirement.
Yeah, you could go way old school with a lesson like look at the Enron folks, right? You got your salary coming from there. You got all this employee stock. Everything, like a huge portion of your financial life is tied into one company, and the company goes. Obviously that's an extreme situation, but still. Right, it serves as a heck of a lesson. So
yeah, you want to protect yourself against any kind of risk like that, so that you can have a really strong retirement.
All right, Liz. Lesson number 5 from Mom. One of my least favorites: eat your vegetables, especially before dessert. So I guess nobody. Well, growing up, not many kids liked vegetables, right? So, but you need the essentials. You need those essential vitamins and minerals right before you get to the fun stuff.
That's right, and you need that in retirement as well. When we were growing up, we were always told to eat our vegetables, but my mom was she was not overly strict, but
Oh,
my
well, lucky
grandmother,
you. Yeah.
yeah, my grandmother definitely was.
Uh,
And there was one time that we were eating with my grandmother, and my younger sister, 3 years younger than me, didn't want to really eat the food in front of her. So she's just kind of messing around with it, pushing it around on the plate. And my grandma kept telling her, if you don't eat that, I'm going to eat your dessert. And the third
oh.
time she told her, and my sister didn't do anything, my grandmother picked up her dessert and ate it.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And I would say that from that day forward, we were all, a little more focused on getting our
Yeah,
food
grandma's not
eaten.
playing.
And
Yeah. She's not playing around.
she did not. She definitely did not. But, when you think about retirement planning, we really need to take that approach with
The
our own
essentials,
retirement.
right?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we have our essentials funded. We know about where are we going to come up with the money? How are we going to cover housing, utilities, our
Yeah.
health care, our food, all of the important things.
Well, it's the non-sexy side of your strategy,
Yeah.
Liz, but I mean, it's also the stuff you really want to be there, right? You want to know that all the basics are covered.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the fun stuff over and above, and that should really give you comfort that you've got all of your essentials funded and you don't have to worry about that. And no matter what happens, you're going to be able to have food on the table and electricity. You're not going to go cold in the winter or too hot in the summer. You're going to have all those things that you need. And then over and above that, figure out how you can do all of the other stuff that you want to do, going on the trips or giving money to kids or grandkids or all of those things that you want to do that are not essential, but they make life a lot more fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's the basics, right? It's the building blocks. You got to take care of the non-fun stuff sometimes so that you can enjoy the fun stuff and just not stress about it. So, all right, lesson number 6 from Mom, save for a rainy day. This one seems pretty obvious, Liz. You got to have that emergency fund, right?
Yeah, you do. You do. And the thing that this one brings to mind, thinking back, is remembering Mom keeping envelopes with cash in them.
Okay.
And people still kind of use that strategy these days, but do it online. But Mom kept envelopes with cash in them. And the thing that really touched me about that was she would occasionally give me a little bit of money from one of those envelopes, even though that was really for essentials. We didn't have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do a lot of extra stuff. So, they were for making sure we had the groceries and all of the things that we needed, the clothes, the shoes. But she would give me a little bit of money so I could buy some treats with my friends at school.
Oh, nice.
We used to go across the street and get honey buns. I don't know if you remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Yeah, good stuff.
Oh,
So
I loved honey buns.
you could splurge once in a while, right?
Yeah. So that was nice.
Yeah.
So the envelope, was a rainy day fund envelope, but it was also, something that she used to carefully allocate some love to her kids from time to time.
The emergency fund, I think, trips some people up sometimes because I think it makes sense when you're still working. But sometimes people talk about having that still in retirement and people think, well, do I really need one in retirement? Because now everything, like I have access to everything. Do you still kind of need an emergency fund in retirement?
The way that I look at it is it's not really an emergency fund. I mean, you certainly do want to have some cash handy to dip into in case, I've got to cover the roof has to be replaced. I need the money for my deductible.
Or whatever.
But,
yeah, okay.
Exactly. But you want to have money in cash to cover that next year to 2 years of expenses. You want to have that very conservative and very liquid. And I do bucket planning, as you know, so I want the first 5 years to be very conservative. Not all in cash, not 5 years in cash, but it's stable, it's secure, it's liquid. But the money in the bank is usually a year to maybe a little bit more that is ready and accessible, and you've got it there in savings. You don't want it in your bank account that's paying 0.01% these days, but
right, still, right? Yeah.
High yield savings, because you can still get 3 to 4% on that.
Well, and that way you've got a little something in case that honey bun opportunity comes along, right?
Yes. And that is true. That is true.
You can't say no to those occasional honey buns. So
you can't, and you want to make sure that you can do that with your grandkids or your kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Have those honey bun moments for them.
Well, lesson number 7, final one. Mom said, clean up your mess. And so I'm pretty sure I know where you're going to go with this one, but what's the analogy for us?
Well, we need to have our estate plan in order. And this one it can be very hard to get to it. Nobody's thinking that they're going to need it anytime soon.
Yeah, mortality doesn't like factor in. Like we're all checking out of this hotel, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Right. And at one point in time, one lady told me, I didn't want to sit down and do this because I was afraid that it would like mean that I was close to the end of
Right.
my life.
Yeah.
Like
it's accepting
if
mortality.
I ignored it, then maybe, it wouldn't be a thing.
Right.
But it can be hard for a lot of reasons because you've got to decide who's going to be trustee, who's going to be executor, who's going to, all of these things. And so it can be hard to sit down and do it. But it's so very important because I've seen families that didn't have it in place or didn't have it the way they wanted it. Mm-hmm. And other families that did.
It's funny.
Night and day difference.
I talked, I mentioned my mom on here all the time because she's, right in this I'm in the demographic to, the folks you work with as well as her. And she was asking me not too long ago, she's like, your dad and I's will and stuff. She's like, I wonder if it's any good anymore. And I was like, Mom, you guys made that like 50 or 60 years ago and he's been dead for 30, right? So it's a little outdated, right? So stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right? You got to update these things.
Yeah, exactly. And she probably doesn't even remember every single thing that's in it.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Yeah, because out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
So anybody listening to this, what you want to do is just take the time, review your beneficiaries on your accounts, and remember, whatever your beneficiary is what happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the will says.
That's the biggie.
Or
Get
what
it
the
right.
trust says.
That's right.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that, but review all those beneficiaries, review your will and your trust documents. Is everything up to date? Are they naming the people that you would name today? Because things change.
Mm-hmm. And do your loved ones know where they are, Liz? That's a big one too, right?
That is a big one. We're currently updating our powers of attorney because our children are now old enough that they can be named as opposed to the other, mom, sister, et cetera, that are a little bit more extended family. And so we're going through the process of doing that update ourselves for that reason. And then another thing that would be very helpful is to put together a household financial, let's just call it a map.
Okay.
That's going to list, what do you have? What's the account? Who's the advisor that they should talk to about that account? Where's your password? Who should they call and how can they get access to the account? Because you don't want your spouse or your children to be trying to figure out, where do I even start?
Yeah. And a lot of us aren't very organized when it comes to this stuff, Liz. And I think that's another benefit to working with financial professionals such as yourself, right? You guys have a lot of systems in place to help kind of make this a little less painful and a little bit more organizational.
Yeah. I always tell people I should be their first call.
Right.
Call me first, because I will then be able to say, here's all the things, here's the steps, here's who you need to talk to, second, third, fourth, and then it just saves a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's a lot of little hoops to jump through. And of course you're scrambling, right? Because you're emotionally and mentally distraught, right? So if you're something bad happens, so having that person to turn to and having this stuff kind of taken care of ahead of time, Liz, is kind of just takes some of that extra pressure off as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Does.
Any other final takeaways you think from the mom isms, the mom lessons?
Well, I think that was a very fun conversation. So thank you, Mark, talking about those 7 lessons. And just, if you're listening to this, just pick one. We talked about 7 things. Just pick one.
There you go.
And take action. Take one action. Call it a Mother's Day gift to your future self and the people you love. And then you'll be glad that you did.
Yeah, I mean, mom took the time to teach you these lessons, right? It's what good moms do, right? I always have the best interest. Like I said earlier, even doesn't matter what age you guys are, you're still trying to get us to eat our vegetables and be careful with what we do and blah, blah, blah. So, protect the ones you love, but also help mom protect herself as well, right? So maybe share this this podcast with mom if she's still with us and needs to do some things or needs some help. Reach out to Liz as always if you got questions, need some help. And that way you're retiring on your best path. You can find her online at bestpathadvisors.com. That's bestpathadvisors.com. Lots of good tools, tips, and resources there, so go check that out. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify. And, of course, check out her YouTube channel as well. A little bit long this week, but that's okay. Moms are worth it, Liz. So thank you so much, and hopefully you had a good Mother's Day.
I did. I had a great one.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
thank you.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time here on Retire on Your Best Path with Liz Whittaberry, founder and financial advisor at Best Path Advisors. Catch you later.
The preceding program is sponsored by Best Path Advisors, which is solely responsible for its content. Securities offered through J.W. Cole Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through J.W. Cole Advisors. Best Path Advisors, J.W. Cole Financial, and J.W. Cole Advisors are unaffiliated entities. The opinions expressed by Liz Whittaberry should not be construed as specific tax, legal, or investment advice, nor as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Neither J.W. Cole Financial nor its representatives provide legal, tax, or accounting advice. Persons who provide such advice do so in a capacity other than as a registered representative of J.W. Cole. Investing is subject to risks, including the loss of principal. Due to volatility within the markets mentioned, opinions are subject to change without notice. Information is based on sources believed to be reliable, however, their accuracy or completeness cannot be guaranteed.